into some drawings functionality. Now, even though we have many mechanisms for going fully paperless, most people are still creating 2D drawings for shop floor purposes or even just basic communication. So with the drawing that I want to show you right now, there are several nice new functionalities when it comes to not only visualization of things, but really getting more and more data and feedback from the system. We're going to take a look at the assembly in the upper right-hand area here. It's got a bunch of balloons. I'm going to window select each of those balloons, and there's a new balloon leader type. So if we go to more properties, you'll see it right down here. It's called the Spline Leader. The Spline Leader instantly converts all the selected balloons over to a really nice little squiggly look to it. And this is really what you'd see, I think, if you're looking at pattern drawings more often. Now, these splines happen to be style splines, so you can change those any way that you'd like to just by manipulating the prismatic inputs around those. So they are quite flexible into their layout. Now, since the dawn of software and even down to drafting boards, we've had these tick marks that reside around the sides and the rows of any type of drawing template or title block. Well, these are called zones, and the zones are actually something completely usable now in SolidWorks 2015. I'm just going to go up to the View pull-down menu and actually show those zones, but these zones can be defined and columned and rowed in the proper order so that they fit on even imported AutoCAD data. They're not something that comes necessarily on a SolidWorks template. So you'd have the ability to stretch the window so that it meets just the corners, and then the proper number of rows and proper number of columns in order to match up with each of these tick marks. Now, once that takes place, it's a lot of feedback from a couple of different areas, one of which is revisions. When we go ahead and add a new revision, not only does it add a new row to the revision block, but it also puts the symbol on our cursor right away. And if I place a symbol next to a dimension, you see that the zone number of that symbol pops in automatically. If I do that over here next to a balloon, again, the zone number of that balloon now shows up as well. And if we start dragging these around, you should see that those zone numbers are dynamically changing. So it is very, very smart. Really no way to break the connection between where the zone resides and where that symbol happens to be sitting. These zones are usable for another area of the software. And this has to do really more with the relationship from a parent to a child view, especially when multiple sheets are involved. It's under the Annotations tab, and it's called a location label. Now, location labels cannot be inserted to a view that doesn't have a child. Now, some of these are front, top, and right views, and they'd have child views, but we're talking sections and details with this. So if I go ahead and hover over my section and my detail, by simply clicking on the detail circle, it's going to give me a nice zone of Sheet 1, Zone B1, which is where this detail view is sitting. And if I go ahead and click on this view, now we see Sheet 1, C4, which is the center of mass of this particular view. So this is a completely associative thing as well. If I was to use my Feature Manager to drag that detail view from Sheet 1 over to Sheet 2, you'll see that the zone and the sheet are going to go ahead and change. The zone stays the same because the part itself is going to sit in the same lower right-hand corner on the next sheet, but the sheet number obviously is going to be in tune with where that view now resides. You can turn those on and off visually anytime that you'd like to, though the zones are still going to be fully associative as a result. Down here in the lower right-hand corner, I want to look at some center marks. Center marks are one of those things where, based on changes, these can go broken. And it's just a fact of how parametric systems work. I'm going to open up this assembly in this view. I'm going to right-click inside the view, and instead of choosing the original open part file, we have another one to the right of it that actually says Open Part in Position. Now, regardless of how that part file was saved in 3D, it will open it, and then it will rotate it around into the position of the view that I just interrogated. Now, in order to go ahead and simulate a problem, we're just going to go ahead and edit our whole wizard component. And by going to Positions, I'm going to add a couple of additional points. But to break something, I'm going to delete an existing point as well. What that'll now leave us with is 5 holes instead of 4, but they're different holes than they were before. At least a couple of them are. Now when we go back to the drawing, you'll see the nice olive color that we put on anything that's got a dangling or broken relationship. Well, here we'd have to delete and redo that in previous releases. Now a simple right-click on that center mark allows us to reattach. And by reattaching, I can pick any other hole, and it will simply put it back in and reassociate. Therefore, if there are any dimensions or other annotations attached to that center mark, we don't have to delete those as well. Well, now we've got an additional hole, though, and that one doesn't have a center mark. So a right-click on this bolt hole circle gives us an operation that we can add a center mark. Simply click the new hole, and we've got a new associative center mark in addition to the original ones. There's 2 other things that I want to show on this drawing. Now, one of which might affect a handful of you out there, but I want you to see exactly what it is. And it's these dimensions here, 68.3 and 48.3. 68.3 and 48.3 are actually 0.25, each of those, but we're rounding up just with the normal standards that we've rounded up to since the dawn of design. Well, there's other people that don't necessarily round that way, and you might not be aware of these disciplines, but they are out there. If you go to your unit switcher and simply go to Edit Units, it's the quick way to get to Tools, Options, and Document Properties. But we have new rounding options here that allow us to round half away from 0 or round half towards 0, which is going to be now half up or half down, and then round half to even, the next even number, or truncate without rounding. Now each of these values in some cases is going to result in rounding up. So 0.325 would actually, 0.25 would actually round up to 0.3. And you get my drift. We're going to round up on anything that could be above 0.0. So if it's a 0.1, we're going to round up. The reason we do those kinds of things is because in wiring and piping, you'd always want to cut it longer than it needs to be, never shorter. So rounding isn't necessarily always going to be, once you get to 0.3, you're going to round, or 0.5, you're going to round up. This as a 0.25 would round up to a 0.3, but this as a 0.22 would also round up to 0.3 in the proper scenario. Again, wiring, electrical, and piping, you always want it longer than you need, never shorter. The last thing I want to show is this one down here, and that's a note. I'm going to take this note and actually change what layer it happens to be on. We'll just do that using our layering tool up here. So if we show that tool live, we're going to take that note, and let's just go ahead and switch it over to the security layer. Now by doing that, what's going to happen now is that this note is going to be on a layer that we have determined to not print. So we now have a new column here that allows you to disassociate or disallow any type of layer from printing. So as long as we verify that this particular note is on the security layer, if I was to go ahead and do a simple print preview, so we'll just go ahead and take a look at it that way, you can see that in the print preview that note does get scrubbed away. Now if you print to a PDF, it will also scrub that note away. That's a print operation. It's just to a PDF generator. But if you save to a PDF or save to an e-drawing, it does not apply. So very specifically, that will not print does refer to printing as an operation.